My name is Alexander Yaffee with the Yaffee and Company. My partner, Mark O'Neill, and today we spent time with the KHA membership discussing our study on CEO turnover in the state. It was a pretty exciting project, one that is still in the midst of being developed, but we were happy to share a lot of interesting findings today. We got a great participation from the membership, both current CEOs, board chairs, and former CEOs. There's a lot of consistency about what we heard. I think the things that jumped out at us was some of the main reasons that lead to turnover have to do with, I'll say, difficulties with board or supervisor, misunderstandings, cultural misalignment, and a desire for more professional growth and development. So it was really nice to see so much engagement from the membership today about learning about the solutions and our thoughts on how to address the problem holistically. We identified 5 things that we think organizations can do to really try to effectively work on the problem. And they range from effective succession planning, which isn't just when a CEO is leaving, but an ongoing process related to who's on board, who are high performers, how do you develop them, what is their risk of leaving. It's really around having better knowledge of the key players and being prepared if an executive, in this case a CEO, were to leave. The other components had to do with when a CEO leaves, looking at the skills and talents that you need for your next CEO. What is that CEO profile? How do you develop it? Who should be included in its development? And how do you vet appropriate candidates once you have them in the door so that you can increase the likelihood that they're going to be a good match with the community, with the medical staff, with the needs of the organization at the point in time that you need them. Doing the work to figure that out up front provides an increased likelihood that you will be able to select the right candidate.
And I had the privilege of interviewing a set of former CEOs, current CEOs, and board chairs. And one of the things that pleased me about that process, aside from validating what Alexander just had to say about our findings, but in terms of the things that you can do to affect this problem, there are success stories out there. And there's a correlation between the numbers of steps that they take to do things correctly when it comes to succession planning, professional development, recruitment, retention, all of that. The more that you do correctly without skipping a step, the more chance you have for success, even in the most difficult of rural environments, which is, as you know, the majority of the issue here.
So if you do the hard work up front to identify that profile, understand what you need, how it aligns with your organization, get engagement from the board, senior staff, medical staff, community input when necessary, then you'll be able to understand where someone needs more development. Are we going for a cultural fit, or are we going for a resume? There's no right or wrong, and there's no perfect candidate. It's a matter of understanding what is likely to come down the pike. And once they're on board, it's about effectively retaining and developing that individual. So it's important to have good communication around evaluation, compensation and benefits. How do we benchmark against other hospitals? Are we paying competitively? Yes or no? An individual may want more pay, but if the package is already competitive, then you understand there's only so much you can do, as opposed to you're paying at the 25th percentile and you know it, and so could you do more? So having a structured approach to what compensation should look like, how you're going to evaluate performance in setting compensation that is in agreement with the president and the board, so they're all on the same page about what constitutes success, and making sure that there's clarity around the CEO's role versus the board's role, because having that role clarity is critical. The CEO cannot do this job by him or herself. They need to have support from the board around strategy and vision, engagement, philanthropy. And the board shouldn't step in for the CEO when there is something that they're approached about in the community or an issue. So understanding clarity around governance and management can mitigate the difficulties with supervisors. And I think that's a real key point.
Yeah, my understanding is that the association has tremendous educational programs for governance members. And what we heard in the feedback here is that taking advantage of that education is a real plus for the positive performance of the organization overall, especially with new board members that need to really understand their role, which is different than any role that they play in the community when they come on to a hospital governing board, regardless of how they got there.
I mean, our work was around CEO turnover and the things that are tangential to it. But at the end of the day, it's not just about CEO development, CEO selection, board development, board selection, making sure that board members are educated and that they know their role is just as critical to making sure that CEO turnover is improved.